If you like this video, why not subscribe? Hey everybody, welcome back to the Frugal Filmmaker Q&A. That's the show where you send me your questions and I try to answer them. Your best chance of getting a question read on this show is to send it to me via email at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. You can also leave a question in the comments below and I could pull it from there. Or you can try me on Twitter at Frugal Filmmaker. Last week we had our first Trivia Monday, which is the first Monday of every month. We're now doing a trivia contest with some Frugal Filmmaker item to give away. This past week it was a Frugal Filmmaker short film idea deck. And the winner of that contest was Jim Miller. He correctly answered the two questions. The first one being, what was the movie in the background? It was this, Run Lola Run, a great German foreign language film directed by Tom Tykwer, starring Franca Potente, who you may recognize from other American films like The Bourne Identity. Really great movie. Highly recommend it. Check it out. The other question was, where was I originally shooting the Q&A show? What car was it in, make, model, and year? It was a 1987 Honda Civic. Some people chimed in with blue also. But Jim got all the answers correct first, sent them to me via email, and so he wins. Now the good news is that if you would like to keep trying to win some Frugal Filmmaker stuff, please keep trying because there will be no repeat winners, so there'll be a new winner every month. So I highly recommend you try again if you didn't win this time, if you're not Jim, in other words. Last week my video was for the Frugal Studio, which is a room in my house that I've repurposed for studio space. About a third of the room we're actually using for studio space now. It's really tight, and I've made the most of it. And if you'd like to check out that video, please do. There's some good ideas in there if you'd like to do the same thing. So check that out. Our first question today comes from a comment on that video from Rick the Poor Boy, who says, could you let a noob in on this green screen stuff and how it works? I know that's how the local weatherman gets the map behind him, and that's about all I know. Well, you're right, Rick. The Chroma key used on live TV news is very similar to what I'm using in the Frugal Studio or what all green screens use. The main difference is that the weatherman uses a green screen, green because it's a really uncommon color, especially in skin tones. And even though people have clothes that are green, you're not supposed to wear them in front of a chroma key, obviously, but it's kind of an unusual color, that bright garish green. Then what happens is that color is then removed and something is put in its place. The weatherman just does it live. All the rest of us do it in post-production. That's why when you see your chroma key effect software, it has a little eyedropper tool, so you can go over and drop it on that green or sample that green color, and then it's turned invisible, but basically, or an alpha channel is created, and then whatever is underneath it in the timeline will show through. You just have to remember that when you're setting up a chroma key, you want to keep the person in front of it as far away from the chroma key as possible, so that when you light the chroma key, that green reflection doesn't bounce all over them, because if you've ever seen a bad key, one of the things that's a telltale sign of it is that you'll see green all over the person, even though you can't see the chroma key anymore because it's been taken away, but you can see the reflection of the chroma key, of the green light all over their shoulders and head and things like that. Another thing is you want even lighting on the chroma key. You want it all to be the same shade, same luminance, so you can pull a clean key out of it, which is one thing I think I got in my setup. Okay, next we have an email from Ankush Sharma, who says, I don't have a mic or any lighting system, but I'm really struggling to get the appropriate video quality when there is no sunlight. I'm a student and I cannot spend money on cameras. Even $50 is a stretch. Can you help me get the best out of my one device setup? I kind of had the same experience when I was setting up the Frugal Studio because I didn't have a lot of lights or didn't have space for a lot of lights. So I actually used the ceiling fan light and another light bounced off the wall. Again, check the video if you're curious about what I'm talking about. But all it really boils down to is just placement of existing lights. Even this setup here is lit by two lights. I have a floor lamp this direction over here, and then I have an LED light hitting the background behind me. It's two lights. So it's not even 3-point lighting, it's 2-point lighting. In this case, it's almost 1-point lighting because one light is just hitting me, and since it's a soft light, it's sort of wrapping around and creating a fairly pleasing effect, and I'm getting some spill off of this light here. But again, it's just placement. So I would say take whatever lights you have in your room and move them around until you get a pleasing effect. You know, study 3-point lighting a little bit, that'll give you a basic idea. Stand in one spot if it's just you, and see where the light falls on you the best, if you can move it. If you can't move the light, like for me, I had the ceiling fan to work with, then you are going to have to move yourself in the camera and just reposition yourself as best possible to get the best possible effects. You just have to experiment. I'm not even saying you have to buy anything else, but just take what you've got and utilize it the best of your ability. I'm assuming you have some kind of lights in your room. It could be a desk lamp, it could be a table lamp, floor lamp that I have here, whatever. Just put them in different positions, different heights, move them around, and just see what the best result is. Okay, next question comes from Robert Dunstan, who says, what are the parts that you use to put together your tripod? I remember that in one episode you mentioned that the legs were one brand and the head another. Could you clarify this? Well, when I originally got my tripod, it was a package deal from B&H. They had the Manfrotto or Bogen 501 head, and then I had Manfrotto 3046 sticks, I believe. They were included together, and Manfrotto and Bogen are pretty much the same company, but you can mix and match tripod legs and heads. There's nothing, usually with more expensive items, they expect you to do this, so there are ways to combine them and remove them, and I can swap out heads or legs whenever I want. So you just have to kind of poke around and do research about what head you want. Of course, you want a fluid head, so you can have smooth pans and tilts, because that oil bearing will get you those smooth shots. And you just want a sturdy set of sticks. Say that 3 times fast. If you're going to be doing something where you don't have to lug it around, I prefer heavy duty sticks, where if you do have to lug it around, like on a hike or something, you want something like weight. It all depends on what your needs are, but you can mix and match those things. Another thing you might want to be aware of is that there are basically 2 types of tripod heads, or 2 adjustment variables, I guess. One of them is a bowl, which is where you have your tripod head basically sitting in a bowl, and it allows you to level the tripod head by using an adjustment on the bottom. You loosen it, and then the head moves around in a bowl, and you can set it with the bubble level. My tripod actually doesn't have that, which I often miss, because it's much harder to adjust the bubble by adjusting the legs. It's much more inconvenient. But I also have the ability to raise the neck of my tripod to a higher height. Bowl setups will only go so far, where these, I'm not even sure what it's called, but where you can extend the neck of your tripod. I think my tripod actually goes up to somewhere like 9 or 10 feet, because it allows me to do that. So if you need height, that's a better way to go. So again, do your homework, figure out what you need, and then shop accordingly. But you can combine any legs and head you want. Next question comes from Ruth Grogan, who says, my question is, how do you sync your soundtrack to the video? I'm guessing that you use a clapper board or the likes to align the tracks in your editing program. I've tried a few times to use a separate recorder many years ago, but I found although I started on the clapper, the sound used to drift out of sync. It depends on what you're doing. I definitely, when I'm shooting narratives, I always use a clapper. That's just a common way to do things. You then take, if you're doing double system sound, that clap spikes your audio, and you can see the spike in your waveforms, and it makes it really easy to align those things. Or you can do it visually when the clapper comes together. You can line that up with where the sound spikes in your double system waveform. However, on shows like this, I don't even use a clapper. I don't need to, because if you're doing something simple, you can always match the waveforms really easily, because you know where they both start, and the waveforms look similar. And when I'm saying waveforms, I'm saying the one in the double system recorder, like a Zoom H1 that I always used, and then one recorded by the camera, the scratch track, which is just kind of the dirty audio that the on-camera mics record. That isn't very good, but the waveform is very similar to what the double system sound recorder has, and so they're easy to align. And if you're doing something simple like this show, you don't even need a clapper. Or you can just clap your hands, but I don't ever use slates giving me scene numbers and takes, and because this is usually a one-take show, and then I'm just cutting out all the parts that are boring. So there you go. To answer the second part of your question, if your sound is drifting out of sync, it may be because you're using the wrong sample rate. Usually video uses 48 kilohertz sample rate, so make sure that it's set for that, because over time it will drift out of sync if it's not the right setting. And if you're using long takes, that can be a problem, obviously. So make sure you've got the right sample rate, and you won't have any problems. All right, Donald Tiegler, hope I got that right, says, do you use any kind of before I hit the record button checklist to make sure you have everything set just how you want it? If so, could you please share? Well, Donald, to be totally honest, I'm not that organized to have a checklist. I just kind of go over it in my head. In fact, my wife and I just had a good laugh because I forgot to roll sound after doing about 5 minutes of this show, and then I had to do it over again. It's good to have a checklist. All the basics, whatever they are, however you work, everybody's going to be different, obviously, but white balance is important. Making sure you're rolling sound, rolling camera, making sure your shot's framed, all different things. Again, it depends on your workflow. I don't have it's all kind of mental for me. I don't have an actual list that I reference, but it might not be a bad idea. Okay, that's all the questions this week. Appreciate all your letters and comments always, and all the emails you send me. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all your participation with the channel. But if you'd like to have a question read on the show, please feel free to send it to me at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com, or again, leave a comment below, or send one to Twitter @frugalfilmmaker. I'll have another video this week, hopefully on Thursday this time and not Saturday, and another Q&A on Monday. We'll see you then.